Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with my ranking of the Friday the 13th franchise. So as many of you are probably already aware, this upcoming Friday is Friday the 13th. I was going to wait until then to film this video, but I figured instead of getting lost with all the other videos that I'm sure will be posted that day regarding the series, I would do my ranking now. Like I mentioned in all of my other ranking videos, this is just my personal opinion. And I'm not necessarily saying that the films that I rank higher are better films, even though sometimes they are. They are just the films that I tend to enjoy more, and are usually more rewatchable for me. And by the way, does it annoy anybody else that there are only 12 films in the Friday the 13th franchise and not 13? Or is it just me? But here it is, my ranking of the Friday the 13th films from least favorite to favorite. Coming in 12th and last place, Jason X. You know, I have to say that this one has grown on me a bit. I really didn't enjoy it the first time I watched it, and I actually watched it again, I believe the next day, the first time I rented this. I didn't see this in theaters. I remember I rented it from the video store. I watched it on like a Friday night, just really wasn't all that impressed. And I believe I woke up the next morning and decided to give it another shot. So I watched it again, and again, I really wasn't impressed. Over the years, however, I've watched it time and time again, and I have to say, yes, it has grown on me. But with that being said, it's still my least favorite in the series. I don't really enjoy the whole sci-fi element of it. The futuristic Jason, the Uber Jason. I just don't like it. The mask is kind of cool, I guess, but for me, my favorite scenes in this one were actually the opening scene when he's just kind of regular old Jason, chained up, tied up, whatever. And the end scene I kind of enjoyed in this one, but everything in between, had cool kills, but just wasn't for me, and is definitely my least favorite in the franchise. At number 11 is a movie that I actually do enjoy, and it's Friday the 13th, the remake. Now the thing about this one is I saw this movie not long after seeing the My Bloody Valentine remake, which I loved. As far as horror remakes go, My Bloody Valentine is one of the best. I just really enjoyed it. I saw it in theaters, and it definitely surpassed my expectations. So I think that's why I didn't quite enjoy this one as much as I probably should have. My expectations were maybe even higher than they should have been. After really enjoying My Bloody Valentine, I guess I sort of expected the same from this. And it just wasn't quite there for me. I did enjoy the opening scene. That was really good. It's kind of that long opening scene. Seeing Jason kill people in that scene was pretty good. Some good kill scenes here and there. Some really unlikable characters. But I still enjoyed it enough. It is a remake that I like. I have to say, one thing with modern horror films for me and remakes, sometimes there's too much emphasis on drugs, and that just kind of takes me out of the movie. It's not relatable for me as somebody who doesn't do drugs. It's just not realistic to me, and I really can't get into the story too much. So I guess that's kind of what pulls me out of this one a bit. Just like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, same thing, and I actually enjoy the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake more than this remake, but, same. There's too much emphasis on drugs for me, and it just takes me out of the story. So, at number 11, Friday the 13th, the remake. Coming in at number 10 is Jason Goes to Hell. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this one, but I have always enjoyed it. Ever since I was young, when this movie was first released, I've always enjoyed this movie. I know it's different from the rest. It kind of takes on its own mythos, if you will, for the Jason Voorhees character. It does something different. It does. It's definitely different than the rest, but it was daring, and I kind of like that it took that risk. And I enjoy the new storyline. It was a nice little setup. I'm glad they didn't necessarily continue with it, but for one movie, it was enjoyable enough. And the ending alone, definitely took this one out of last place for me, or even second to last place, because I just love that iconic ending of, Jason's mask on the ground, Freddy's gloved hand coming up and grabbing it and pulling it down to hell. It's the perfect setup for Freddy versus Jason, and I love that they did that. And I remember being young and watching this and just being so excited to see Freddy's glove come up out of the ground and grab Jason's mask. So I have fond memories of that. I remember meeting Kane Hodder for the first time around the release of this movie and having a photo from him on set, signed by Kane. And, it was really cool, really great experience, and probably a bit of nostalgia kind of, pushes this up my list a bit. But here it is at number 10, Jason Goes to Hell. At number 9, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Now, I know a lot of people like this one mainly because it's Kane Hodder's, first movie to play Jason. And, that's great. Obviously, Kane Hodder is a fantastic Jason. He's a horror icon. We can all agree on that, I think. But as far as the storyline goes, I just never really got into this one too much. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. It's fun. It's cheesy. If I feel like putting it on, I will in the background. It's kind of a good background slasher for me. I'll sit and watch a few parts here and there while I'm doing other things. But typically, it's not one that, I feel like watching. The whole telekinesis storyline just really didn't work for me. And I definitely prefer the other films over this one. So, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, number 9 in my list. Coming in at number 8 is Freddy vs. Jason. Now, the thing about this one is that I expected far less from it. I remember them, talking about this idea for a while of, doing a movie to have both of these horror icons together. And I remember being excited for it, but also kind of questioning, how would they make that work? How would they make it work without it making it obvious that they were just trying to put these two together? And then when I finally saw it, I was actually quite impressed with the storyline. I thought it was a really good idea. The whole fact that, the kids are being given, a medication so that way they don't have nightmares, they don't dream, and there's no way for Freddy to get to them without, getting the help of Jason to scare these kids on Elm Street and, make everybody suspect that Freddy has somehow come back and is getting to these kids. It was definitely an interesting take. It was definitely an interesting way to go with the story, but it worked for me. This one really did. And, of course, it's enjoyable seeing Freddy and Jason fight. In my mind, Freddy tossed Jason a beating. I don't know how some people say that Jason won, because in the battle scenes, as small as Freddy is, I really do feel like he got the best of Jason. Even in the end, a lot of people claim, oh, Jason walks off in the end with Freddy's head, but that's not because of Jason. It's, Monica Keena's character is the one that killed Freddy in this. So, for me, Freddy definitely got the best of Jason, but as a whole, the movie works. I enjoy it. And here it is at number 8. Now, I'm ready for the criticism, because coming in at number 7 on my ranking is the original Friday the 13th. So, it's awesome. It is. It's definitely a classic. It's a great slasher film. It's a great point of view slasher film. You pretty much all the kills you see through the eyes of who we find out to be Mrs. Voorhees. But I don't know. Other than the whole classic status of it, the teens in the woods getting killed off one by one, The Burning does it better. There are other campy slasher films that just do it better than this one. Sleepaway Camp, The Burning, even Madman I enjoy more than the original Friday the 13th. And it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy this film, because I do. I would say that I actually love this film. It is one that I feel like watching at times, and I'll pop it in. But I just don't like it as much as the other movies that I'm ranking higher. So that's why the original Friday the 13th is at number 7. And the lack of Jason probably has a lot to do with it, I guess. When I want to watch a Friday the 13th movie, I tend to want to watch one with Jason in it. But again, sometimes I do feel like watching this one just for the atmosphere. That, I don't know, it has a different feel than some of the others. And Jason, some of those got a little bit cheesy with Jason in it. This is kind of just a straight up slasher film, a whodunit slasher, if you will. Obviously, the first time you watch it, and it's definitely enjoyable, but just not quite as enjoyable as the other films I have ranked higher. Coming in at number 6 is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Now, this one was actually my favorite Friday the 13th film growing up. If you were to ask me years ago, what's my favorite, this would have been my number 1 pick. I loved this one because of, the inclusion of kids at the camp finally. Most of these films, it's just the counselors. You don't really get to see the kids because the counselors are killed before the kids even make it there. But in this one, you actually have the counselors having to deal with the children as well, and I like that. It's interesting. There's some good kill scenes in this one, some likable characters in this one as well. But for whatever reason, over the years, I've started to like the other films in the series, a bit more than this one. As with any of my other rankings, I'm sure this is going to continue to change over time. But as of right now, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, is number 6 in my Friday the 13th ranking. At number 5 is a movie that gets a lot of hate, but shouldn't. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I know it's cheesy. I know it's different. It's a lot of people don't like the fact that it's Jason Takes Manhattan and most of the movie takes place on a boat. And to be honest, even when it's in the city, it's not really in Manhattan. So Jason Takes Over a Canadian City would be a better title. But I love it. It's cheesy. It's fun. There's some interesting characters in this one. Definitely some interesting deaths. Just over the top. Good time. I mean, Jason in a boxing match, a rooftop boxing match for one. You have the toxic waste trash can. You have the female rocker on a boat. It's just crazy. It's just a good time. It's entertaining. I've always loved this one. The ending in the city, I do like. I love the scenes on the boat, but I do love when they make it to the city. It's cool seeing Jason, no matter what city it is, just kind of stalking through the city. And I like when he looks up and also sees the billboard when he first gets off the boat and he sees the billboard of the hockey mask and kind of does a like a Jim Halpert from The Office and kind of looks at the camera. It's kind of funny. It's not meant to, this one's really not meant to be scary at all. It's funny. It's just a good time as I've said. So 5th place, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Coming in 4th place is Friday the 13th, Part 2. This has a great heroine in Amy Steele's character. I really wish that they continued her character storyline throughout, more of the films, but unfortunately we only get her in this one. This one, Jason doesn't have his hockey mask yet. He doesn't have that, that iconic mask. Just has that burlap sack, which is pretty creepy in its own right, especially when you first see it, late into the film. It has some good kill scenes in here. I don't think there's, other than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I can't think of any other wheelchair kills than in Friday the 13th Part 2, at least any that I have seen. So, of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre probably has the most famous wheelchair kill, but this is probably second in line there. Always enjoyed this one. Just another good slasher film in the woods. It reminds me of a lot like the first film, like the original, only this one at least has Jason doing the killing. So that's why I ranked this one higher than the original, and 4th place on my ranking overall. We've made it to the top 3 now, and coming in 3rd place is Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. This is, of course, the 4th film in the series, and I love this one. I do. This was probably my 2nd favorite movie growing up behind Jason Lives, and it was always the most relatable for me because of the character of Tommy, played by Corey Feldman in this one. Being, a young kid when I was the horror boy, watching horror films, this movie was very relatable to me. This along with Halloween 4 and 5, relating to the Jamie Lloyd character in those, and then relating to Tommy in this, being a kid in a horror film. Definitely relatable. Made it scarier for me because, it wasn't seeing Jason just go after adults or teenagers. He was actually, there were actually kids at risk. So I guess that's probably why I loved Jason Lives as well, with the kids being at the camp. But yeah, just always loved this one. Love Tommy's character. Love Corey Feldman. I've been a Feldman fan anyway. I've been a fan of the 2 Coreys growing up, between Lost Boys and License to Drive and Dream a Little Dream and all the other films they were in together. This was another one featuring at least one of the Coreys, and I always enjoyed it for that reason alone. Always loved the cover art on this one as well. Classic. Yeah, probably my favorite of the Friday the 13th covers. It's simple. It's that, the knife through the mask. Fantastic ending in this one as well. And it really could have been the final chapter. It would have been a satisfying ending to the franchise. I'm glad it didn't end because there are a lot of great films that came after this. But it really could have been a fitting end to the franchise. And in a way, it ended live Jason, if you will, if you even want to call him that in the first few films. After this, we kind of got that zombie Jason for the rest of the series. But you know, in a lot of ways it was the final chapter, and I just love it. So it's in third place in my Friday the 13th ranking. In second place, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. This will probably be surprising to some, but for me, this right here, this is a slasher film. This is how you make a slasher movie. It's just kill after kill after kill. I mean, the death count has to be the highest in this one. I probably should have did some research before posting this, but this has to have the highest kill count. No, in Friday the 13th series, I feel like it has to. There's just so many characters that die in this one, in, you know, creative ways and in fun ways. I mean, you have the classic scene with Debbie's Sue Voorhees there, you know, with the shears going through her eyes. I love that. Again, another one with a kid. You know, the characters, you know, the child characters in these, as I said, were just way more relatable for me. So maybe that's why I've always enjoyed this one as well. I know Jason's not the killer, but I love that. I love that you think Jason's the killer through, you know, most of the movie until the very end. I don't know. I love this one. This is probably the one that I watch maybe second to most. So I guess that's why I'm making it second on my list. You know, I really like watching this one. This is one, when I feel like watching a cheesy, fun slasher film, I tend to put this one on. You know, I mean, that the Ooh Baby, Hey Baby song alone, it's great. It's entertaining, and it's number 2 in my Friday the 13th ranking. And here it is, my number 1 pick and favorite Friday the 13th film, Friday the 13th, Part 3. I love this one. This is the one that I definitely watch more than all of the others. You know, you have my buddy Rick in this one. Rick has such a great, fantastic death with his eye coming right out of his head, popping right out. Absolutely love that. This is the one where Jason gets his mask, of course. And this one has a good balance of likable and unlikable characters. You know, there's definitely some characters you want to see, you know, get killed off, and others that you are kind of rooting for. It also has Shelley, which is one of the more polarizing characters in Friday the 13th. You know, at times I enjoy him, and then at other times he just kind of gets on my nerves. So, who knows? But that's sort of what the cast is like in this one, I guess. You know, some are polarizing, and others are fairly likable. I love the opening scene in this one as well, with the, you know, the couple that owns the store. That poor guy with his wife. Yeah, I guess Jason kind of did him a favor there, but put him out of his misery. But always love that opening. Probably my favorite opening in all of the Friday the 13th films. And yeah, again, I'll say it again. Jason gets his mask in this one. It's 3D. It's cheesy. Great ending in this one as well. I also love the camp in this one. It just looks a little different to me. It's kind of claustrophobic and smaller, I guess. I feel like Jason's just kind of killing in a smaller area of the camp, and I've always enjoyed that. So when I think of Friday the 13th, this is the movie that I think about. Friday the 13th, Part 3, my favorite film in the franchise. So that's it, guys, for my ranking of the Friday the 13th films from least favorite to favorite. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll be back soon with more. Until then, please comment below, let me know what you think about the franchise, and post a video response with your own ranking of the films. I'd love to check it out. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.